Hi there, Janine Regan-Sinclair here. I didn't advertise, so see if a few people drop on. This is not my my normal time on a Friday. But I've been asked to come on today and remind people that you're the ones in the driving seat. Hi there, thanks for joining me. Hey guys, hi Babs. Thanks for joining me, guys. So this isn't my usual time. Hey Gloria, Dilly Bean, April, Melissa, how you all doing, guys? I just thought I'd pop on and do an impromptu live. So yeah, I've been asked to remind you all that you are the ones in the driving seat. You're the one that's the centre of your reality. Hi Christy. Hope you're all doing well. I've spoke to you before, guys, about you being Linda Calerda. Did you mean to request to join me? That you're the ones that are in the driving seat of the ascension. And for anyone new on here, because this isn't my usual time, just a quick word about what ascension is. Every 26,000 years there's a massive leap in consciousness. Hi Australia, hi Denmark. And we're in it at the moment. And if you look back over the history of the changes on the earth, from example from the Iron Age, you know, to the Bronze Age, the Ice Age to the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, and so on. We're moving into the Golden Age. It only happens every 26,000 years. But if you look back over our history of our evolution, there were massive leaps in between those things. So, you know, where did we go from being a little amoeba in the ocean to a bird flying in the sky, for example? There were massive leaps in the evolutionary process of our DNA, and we changed. And lots of us are changing because we're doing the work. But the whole point of it is enough of us need to change to upgrade our DNA, to remember who we are. And a good mantra for that is, who am I, where am I, what am I? Who am I, what am I, where am I? And just keep saying it to yourself while you're driving, or you know, because when you're driving, you go into theta brainwave frequency if you're on the freeway and stuff like that. So you're accessing your subconscious mind. And we're here to upgrade ourselves, remember who we are, get into our own DNA in order to be able to lift the whole planet up. Because Mother Earth's moving from a 3D vibrational frequency into a 5D vibrational frequency. The one in between is where the conspiracy stuff is, and that's an area that you might dip into, but don't stay in there too long, because it's definitely a mind trap. And all of that, you know, those belief systems, the way I see it, and I fell into it myself, I'm putting my hand up there. If it starts off as conspiracy theory and we believe it, it becomes conspiracy fact. And then the conspiracy crowd start going, see, it's real, it's really happening, not realizing that millions of people that have gone down that rabbit hole have actually created it. If we all sat back, stopped watching that stuff, and believed that the leaders of our planet were all squeaky clean, pure-hearted, that had the intention to, you know, represent society and be pure leaders that cared about everyone, including the planet, then that's what we would manifest. So when you go into those rabbit holes on social media or anywhere else, and you stare at it for more than 3 seconds and give it a name, you've sucked that imprint into your consciousness. So you've brought that program in. And that's how it's a mind trap. This is why all these whistleblowers are out there, you know, saying, you know, maybe a few of them are okay. But there's a lot of them, you know, it's all big drama and all this lot. It's just about getting you hooked in. That's what the whistleblowers are for. A lot of them are working for, there are two sides, obviously, in duality, and they're not working for the light side. But they've got an agenda, and that's to trap your minds in the conspiracy stuff and down that rabbit hole. And it's a massive, really horrible looking rabbit hole as well. So there's a lot of bad stuff in there. I'm not saying that things like child abuse and trafficking and stuff like that doesn't happen, because it does happen. But it also is happening for a lot of other reasons as well. Anyone who is, and I say this without judgment because I help people that are addicted to pornography and stuff like that. If you're addicted to pornography or watching pornography, for example, you are fueling that program of sexual trafficking and abuse of women, children and men and boys. It's not just a female thing. So you really need to be thinking about what you're absorbing into your consciousness, because you are in the driving seat. And if we're going to ascend fast, we need to really start taking responsibility for our minds, for what we're absorbing, what we're exposing our children to. The history we've got in our consciousness from the past is self-fulfilling prophecy as well. I've reached out to quite a few people of colour, I'm being very careful what I say, to work with me on bringing some kind of mass forum for releasing racism, which is intergenerational trauma. The root cause of racism is intergenerational trauma. So it's not just about black and white, it's about fear of other nations, it's about fear and hatred because of intergenerational trauma, because of a select few that, treated people with colour very badly and disgraceful. But we're in an epoch now where we've got the ability to be able to heal this, guys. And it's a really important time to think about that. Even thinking about, what you've got in your consciousness, where your ancestors were, what you've got in your DNA from them, because we inherit our DNA field, our consciousness, from our ancestral lineage as well. And most of us come from backgrounds where they've been at war, or there's been racism, or there's been slavery, or some kind of abuse and, terror that goes through people. And this is the time to be releasing that. I'm not getting a lot of help. If there is, anyone out there with a platform that is a person of colour who cares about this and would maybe like to do a live with me about the importance of healing the trauma and the intergenerational trauma that's passed down from our ancestors, then please do get in touch via my website. My website's the same as my IG name, JanineRegan-Sinclair.com. And because more people need to be on this now. It's a time where we've got we've got the energy here to be able to clean the old stuff out and heal ourselves en masse. Hi Janine, someone shared with me how the mothers feeling unexpected are passed on to their child from the conception of 7 years old. Yeah, exactly. Let me just read this other message somebody sent me. Time to be present and fly. Yeah, we are complex creatures and we're powerful. And it's been something that it just keeps coming up inside me as well. I know I've been a person of colour in a past life, and I think that's why it's hitting a nerve with me that this is such an important time to heal it. And every one of us is in the driving seat, because every one of us is the centre of our own universe, the centre of our own reality, the centre of all of it. And what you've got in your DNA, what's been passed down to you from your ancestors, is what's creating it in your reality. So it's not just 4 or 5 of us can do this and it's done for the world. Everyone has to take responsibility for their own software, their own programming, because what's in your system is what's creating your reality. We are creating a reality, manifesting a reality en masse, And that can be affected, I've spoken about it before, by the Maharishi effect, which is the square root of 1% of the population of the planet, which is just under 9,000 people at the moment. Whatever happens in a group of people that size has a knock-on effect across the whole world. It's a bit like the 100th monkey effect. So this is really a time to be working on yourself every day. We get trapped in just the everyday routine of going to work and looking after the kids and cooking meals and going shopping and all of this other stuff. And then if we've got some spare time, we're doing, our exercise or our hobbies or whatever. But one of the most important things that you can be doing is your meditation and your self-healing, because that's changing your reality. Even those of you that are very awake, if you're not doing something every day, you're wasting time. We have got the rest of our lives. But if we get on it, this could be worked out, hugely in, 2 to 5 years, massive, massive changes. And if we don't, 50 years. I am recording it, yes. So it's something that we all need to get on. Let's get on it, guys. Let's work on it. I do it every day, and I have done for over 15 years now. I've been doing this for 20 years, but I've been on it seriously for the last 15. If I don't do some healing every day or meditation every day, something feels off. It's like going to work and you forgot to clean your teeth. It's just not the done thing. So the message today was about the importance of you. You are the most important thing in your reality, because you're the software in the machine. And it's up to you to take responsibility for what you see in the world, what you believe, what you've inherited, and so on. Because we can't change it for you. We can't change your reality for you. We can work together to change our reality together. And that's what I do in my academy. You can join the academy via my website. It's only $99 for the year or $9.99 a month. And I do 2 one-portal healings with you and 2 chats a month for that and a Q&A. So you're getting a lot for your buck there. And there are over 100 of us in there at the moment. And we do work together as a group. And it's a powerful group. Some of my very close friends are in there, and I know how powerful they are. And the more of us that come together and work together in groups, those of you that are in the academy and don't always turn up for the lives, it would be better for all concerned if you can make an effort to turn up for the lives. I know they're recorded and you can go and see them afterwards, but it's not the same as being live in a group when you do it on your own afterwards. And there's some major stuff going on all over the world now. There's big changes happening. I've heard of in England of a group that are taking back their driving licenses, their cars from the GOV. I have to be careful what I say. And there's a trust fund being set up so that, things like that. Your home, your deeds to your home, your car, all of these things, you're just the registered keeper. And if you think you own them, then you need to read all the small print and look into it. Look into things like the straw man and stuff like that. Because if there was anything like martial law, they can just take your cars and your home off you and everything in your bank account as quick as that. So there needs to be a break away from that old system. And that's what Ascension is about. It's about us developing new futures, new schooling for our children, the holistic healthcare getting the recognition that it deserves at last. I've been studying treatments for addiction for a long time to see what's out there. And there is hardly anything to do with spirit. And we are mind, body and spirit. It's the mind-body connection. There's detoxing. There is, 12 steps and that kind of thing. But there's nothing to deal with the spiritual side of it. And what is the spiritual side of it? Well, your body is made of energy grids of light. Energy is spirit. Those energy grids get fractured when you go through trauma. Most addicts are addicted because of some kind of trauma in their system, some kind of powerlessness that they feel, and they're trying to escape reality because they're so unhappy. It's a numbing. But the spirit side of it is not being treated out there. I'm doing 3 retreats on Vancouver Island this year. The first one's in April. On the website, it's got drugs and alcohol, but if you've got any other kind of addiction and you're interested in coming along, please do get in touch with me, and I'll have a conversation with you at least. But entities get into the system when we're addicted, and they're very subtle. I'm talking about possession here. You can have a husband who's drinking every night, who's possessed, and you're cuddled up in bed next to him, and he's cuddling into your children, and those entities have got access to all of you. So this is not something to ignore. This is not something to put up with. I'm a very compassionate person, but if I was in a relationship with somebody that was addicted to something and they weren't working on it until they got it sorted, I wouldn't stay with them, because I wouldn't want to be intimate with somebody that's got entities in their system. And addictions across the board, people always think drugs and alcohol, but what about, do you come home from work every night and have a glass of wine, sit down and watch TV for 3 or 4 hours? That's an addiction. Are you on the internet every night? Do you go on the internet? Are you always scrolling when you go to bed every night? That's an addiction. Gaming addiction, shopping addiction. There's so many different types of addiction out there. And all of these things allow entities into your body. So if you've got entities in your body, what are you going to see in the world around you? The world around you is a projection of you. So you're going to see entities in other people, because it's projected. So really take note of what you're seeing around you, what you're seeing in other people, and start making notes. What I did, I recommend start making notes. Thank you, April, darling. Thank you. I used to make notes of what I seen in other people when I, was interacting during the day, and then come home and heal that in myself. So that goes for anything from aggression to anger to sadness to grief to materialism to anything, because I've spoken to you before about your cubes of consciousness. And your cubes of consciousness, your pure spark is like a little glass box with a flame in it. That's like your soul essence. And in your perfect cube. And all the lifetimes we've had and all the experiences we've had have added to those cubes until there's trillions of them. You think about all the lives. Some of us have had thousands and thousands of lives. The old souls out there, you know who I'm talking to. You've had more lives than many, so you've got more work to do than other people. So don't just sit back thinking, oh, I'm a good person. Tune into your cubes of consciousness. Connect to one. Ask one, what do I need to work on today when you wake up in the morning? Ask one to guide your thoughts, words and deeds. Because we've all got stuff to do, guys. We've all got stuff to do, and we've all been good and we've all been dark. So no pointing the finger. If you find out you've done something bad in a past life, forgive yourself like you're talking to your own child or someone you love. Don't judge yourself. You wouldn't be here if you were perfect. None of us are. We've all got work to do. How do you know you're an old soul? You can Google that. Old souls tend to be more compassionate. They tend to be wiser. A lot of them still are maybe feeling tired of being on this planet now. I know I am. I've been doing this for 20 years, and to be honest, I didn't realise just how much work there was going to be involved. And then when I came on Instagram a couple of years ago and started to see what was being taught out there, I was, to be honest, pretty shocked about how much misinformation there is. And, partially leading people into one side of the duality. We don't need to search out for how God is within. God is the creator God, I presume you're talking about the Bible. One is the creator of creators, the absolute, where all of that information came from. And that's what I connect people to. So this is going beyond God. And if if you're following the Bible and things like that, what does the Bible teach? What does any religion teach? It teaches duality, good and evil. We're here to move out of that duality into neutrality, into the middle, balancing and merging the two into the middle. Because when you're in the middle, you can't be over here going love and light, love and light, love and light, love and light all the time, because the nature of duality is going to put something over here going dark and hate, dark and hate, dark and hate to balance it out. That's duality. But when you clean your cubes and you come into neutrality in the middle, there is no dark. If you want to get rid of the dark, you need to learn to be neutral. You can't get rid of the dark hiding in the light, forcing the light out into people. Neutrality is bliss. It is light. It feels light. It's bliss energy. It's euphoric energy. And that's where everything came from. So we came from there and we separated during the fall. So this is a time for, introspection and really have a good think about it, because the systems have programmed people's consciousness and it traps people in a certain level. And one of those levels I'm going to talk about, which is probably going to press a few buttons with a few people, but this is not from a place of judgment. This is my experience. Going back 15, 20 years ago, when I used to have Jesus come to me a lot, and I completely associated Jesus with religion and said, I'm not going down that road. I've done that in many lifetimes, and I know in this lifetime I'm not meant to be going into that belief system because it's duality. That's not what I was born to bring to the world. I was born to bring neutrality and bliss to the world, and the knowledge of that, and the knowledge of the fact that these things are mind traps that keep good and evil alive. You can't have one without the other. You can't. So if you want to eliminate the dark, and I presume everyone out there does, unless you're practicing something else, then learning about neutrality and the importance of being in the middle, in neutral, and not having an opinion, and just understanding that everyone's where they are, because everything is neutral. Your perception turns it into duality. So if you see everything as neutral, you know that you've cleaned out your perception and your judgment and what you've been programmed to believe is what is, everyone should be doing this or everyone should be doing that, or what they're doing is wrong. Who cares? Neutrality is key, absolutely. Let people live and let live. Let them get on with what they're doing. You're the one in the driving seat. Focus on you. If you're seeing people that you don't like their stuff, go into your cubes of consciousness, take responsibility that the universe has been kind enough to bring that to your attention so that you can work on it in yourself instead of pointing the finger. Because pointing the finger is pointing the finger in a mirror at yourself. That's what the law of projection is. Your consciousness is projected out into your reality. Your cubes, what's in your cubes from all of your lifetimes and all your ancestral stuff is projected out into your reality. And it reflects back to you. That's why they call it the mirror. And I'll get people saying all the time, well, I've seen a lot of angry people today, but I'm not an angry person. I wake up full of the joys of spring. It's not just you that you see in the mirror. You've got trillions of these cubes of consciousness in your quantum field, in your energy grids. And every time you clear a layer, there's another layer to come. Yes, dark and light are all one. Darkness is the fear and judgment of the dark. Yeah, there's nothing to be scared of in the dark. It's just a lower than heart vibration, really. It's just not high frequency. It's not about fear. It's about understanding. And even when I got into this, 20 years ago, I was sending the love and light. I bought into that was the right thing to do. And every time I did it, I got psychically attacked by the dark. That's made me think, why am I being attacked by the dark when I'm sending out all this light? And it was to bring it to my attention. It was to bring it to my attention. And I used to do the Mind, Body, Spirit festivals all over the UK. And every weekend, and I'm a good person, but those festivals, I would get witches putting spells on my stall so that I couldn't sell my products. I was like, why am I getting attacked? And then I looked into the parts of me that were possibly witches in other lifetimes. So the universe was letting me know, neutralise the witch part of you. Many of us have been burned or hanged as witches. Okay. So, and the other thing, movies like The Wizard of Oz, I had a fear of witches from The Wicked Witch of the West, from that movie that I watched when I was 4 years old as well. So that was bringing the attention to me of fear of witches. Fear is fear, doesn't matter what the fear is. I've watched videos of people got some fear of some of the weirdest things. Obviously, people have fear of balloons, which is quite a common one, but fear of baked beans, where a phobia. Fear is fear. It doesn't matter what it's linked to. Most of us have got some kind of fear. Everyone's got some kind of fear until you're fully enlightened. So it's a really important time to be thinking about all of your belief systems, because if you're still buying into the religious belief systems, and if you are, no judgment. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to share knowledge. If you're still buying into that system, then it may be that you need to really think about what I'm saying about the light and dark, because it keeps the dark alive. As far as I know, certain books out there are rewritten every year by men as well. So there are changes added to them. Okay, fear of baked beans, I know. But I did watch a documentary about it a long time ago. It was a phobia, actually. It was even worse than a fear. So this is a time to be meditating, to be going within, to be connecting with one, the neutral aspect, the absolute creator of all of the creators. And if you go to the homepage of my website, there's a diagram there that all the religions came from one. There were messages sent. I know that. But the books have been rewritten by men in order to control. The story about, Adam and Eve and the temptation in the Garden of Eden and all this stuff was created. It's not true. It was created to make women look like the bad guys and original sin. Do you really believe that an all-loving God, who is completely forgiving and non-judgmental, would put two people in a garden and say, everything you want is yours, it's all perfect, but don't touch that tree, you can't have an apple? Do you really believe that? Because it just sounds like a ridiculous story to me, and it's created a lot of hatred down the lineages towards women being the temptress. There was a documentary on Netflix, and I love watching documentaries. I love watching documentaries about people because I like to look into the psychology of these kind of things. And there's a documentary I watched recently about Pamela Anderson. Now, most people would probably look at Pamela Anderson, if you don't know who I'm talking about. She was in Baywatch, beautiful girl. And probably judge her for her nude modelling and things like that, and call her names and look down on her because of the career that she chose. In the documentary, it explains about how she was sexually molested by a female babysitter when she was a little girl. She was raped by a 25-year-old man when she was 12 years old. She comes from Vancouver Island. And she ended up going down to LA because she was offered to pose for Playboy, and then fell into the Playboy mansion scene. And I could not feel anything but sadness and empathy for her life, what she went through. And then she eventually found love with Tommy Lee, who has got his own problems, and ended up in a situation of domestic violence where he was sent to prison for 6 months. The love of her life, who now in her 50s, she still loves him, but she took her 2 little boys, her babies, and went on her own. He hit her once. And I've got so much respect for her for walking away from a violent man. So much respect. There's one thing I would never have tolerated in my life of anyone. But people don't know what she's been through. Now then, the biggest trauma she ever had, which finished her career, was their private sex tape was stolen from their garden. It was in a 6 foot by 3 foot by 4 foot steel shed in the garden. And the builders next door stole it with a crane with their private tapes in, and it went viral all across the world. It destroyed her. She had 2 little children. It was everywhere. She's the, labelled all these horrible names. And Tommy's the big man because he's, the rock star rebel and gets a pat on the back. That is not right. That shows, that documentary, I think every man out there should watch it. And the other one is the story behind Marilyn Monroe. It's called Blonde, what she was put through as well. Another very abused child. Her mum tried to kill her in a boiling hot bath when she was 9 years old, tried to drown her. She was abused and raped constantly by people. All of this is out there in the field of consciousness. All of these things need to change. So there's deep healing needed, especially down the female lineage, because of all this trauma that's been passed down. We hide behind things. I've had to do some healing on myself this week about being exposed, about exposure, about being on the world stage. Because it's time for me to get out to more people now. But there is a part of me that I found yesterday who was stoned to death by an angry mob for speaking up the truth. I've healed it. I'm not worried about it now. But all this female trauma is still in the mass female victim consciousness. But it's not just about healing the women. This is about healing the men so that they look at women as the divine goddesses and beautiful souls that they deserve to be, with respect. So if you like watching documentaries, I highly recommend the one about Pamela. She's a lovely, lovely person. If you want to see what an angel looks like, go and see what she looked like when she was younger. And I still think she's an angel to this day. I think she's been through a lot. She's got 2 beautiful sons that absolutely adore her and haven't watched the video, thankfully. But those boys were traumatized as well. And this is all because of the freedom of the press, and somebody else stole her stuff and then sold it to every media outlet and YouTube and everything else that was out there. It's wrong. They destroyed her life, and when she went to court over it, it was thrown out of court. Because you're a playgirl, because you take your clothes off for a living, you haven't got any privacy rights. Well, I'm sorry, but that's just not right. Those laws need to be changed. There need to be more laws protecting people. If they didn't protect her, they should have protected her children. And only we can change this. We are in the driving seats. So if you're out there and you're thinking, what can I do? Start a petition. There's always something you can do from home. These things need to be addressed. The same with racism as well. There's not enough out there being done about it. I also watched, and I'm not a royalist at all. I believe everyone's equal. I've spoken about that before. Everyone deserves respect. And I look everyone in the eye as an equal. But the same goes for, I was guided to watch the Meghan and Harry documentaries as well to see what went on there. Because when I watch these things, I find out what's being put into the mass consciousness and what needs to be healed. And there is another beautiful girl who was tortured because her mum is coloured, a person of colour, should I say, by the press, who got away with it. So much so that her and Harry moved to Vancouver Island, and then they ended up staying at Tyler Perry's house down in California, he plays Medea, if you don't know who Tyler Perry is. To protect them. He had to put massive fences around his house to protect them. That poor girl was driven to the point where she didn't want to live anymore, and she's a mother of 2 children. She had a miscarriage because of stress. And this is allowed. These people are not products. They deserve privacy. So there's a lot of stuff that's out there. All this trauma, racism's not being dealt with. It's not being dealt with. It was allowed to happen. Thankfully, I think they did win one of their cases. But all this trauma is in the mass consciousness, and history repeats itself. And these things are being brought to the attention of the masses, and there's still people out there that use vile language and call black people by the N-word. I know it's all right for black people to say it to one another as a joke. It's like Irish people calling one another paddies. My background is Celtic. I'm 3/4 Irish and Scottish, and a quarter English, really. And a little bit of Icelandic as well, and a bit of French. So all of this, we really need to start focusing in on what we've got in our ancestral lineage and what we've got in our DNA. And if you work with one already, you already know how to heal these things in your system, and start bringing one in to cleanse it from your DNA and your DNA consciousness, your field, your DNA field, which is the 95% we're told is junk, is actually information. There's no such thing as junk DNA. That's another porky pie, we've been told. So all of this, it's really being brought to my attention at the moment about the trauma that's out there. Sexual trauma, the demonization of women, the ill treatment of people of colour. And all of us need to work together to heal it. Racism is down to intergenerational trauma and fear. And we can sit back, no matter what colour we are, and we can say, this is nothing to do with me. But if you see it in a newspaper or on a TV screen or in a movie or on your social media, it is to do with you, because it's being brought to your attention. The fact that you're sitting in front of me listening to this is being brought to your attention by your higher self. You've been guided here to get this information. So it's up to you to do something about it. Nobody else can fix it in your reality. Only you can fix it in your reality. And that may be that you just bring one in and spread one out into the world, and ask one to put bliss into all of the water and food on the world, with the intention of healing, racism. Everything's about intention. But then if people drink that blissful water with the intention of healing racism, it's going to have an effect. And we're not forcing it on people, because we're not forcing people to drink the water. But Mother Earth will certainly thank you for sending bliss into the water, and send it into the rain as well, guys. Next time it's raining, don't, oh no, it's raining. Go, oh great, connect to one, spread it around the planet, ask one to put a bliss into every drop of rain, with intention of healing the world, healing the food, healing the water, healing the planet, healing the mountains, the rocks, the crystals, the trees, the grass. Everything contains frequencies that are linked to all of the trauma that's been on this planet. Those of you that have been following me for some time, and I can see some new names on here. Many, many lifetimes ago, I went through a trauma of being raped. And I've been back to that trauma many times, because in this lifetime, I've never really felt comfortable in dresses. If I would go out in a dress, I would start getting palpitations. So obviously school wasn't fun, because I had to wear a skirt to school. And I felt very vulnerable. And it wasn't until I got into what I'm doing now that I realised what it was. It was a rape back in a past life. And I've been back to that lifetime a few times to heal it. But here's the thing. The last time I went back to it, the part of me that was a servant in a big fancy house, I was raped by the laird's son. She was okay. And I asked, why am I being brought back here? And the tree spoke to me. And the tree told me, it was crying and said it needed some healing because it felt so guilty that it couldn't help me when I was being raped underneath the tree. That made me really, really conscious of the land and Mother Earth and the trees and the bushes and the grass and everywhere that there's been any kind of bloodshed or trauma, that it goes into the plants and it goes into the trees as well. So send it to those, if, you know, they need it. We're all being raised up. Everyone needs it. So I wanted to talk about it because one, on a level, it did trigger me, but it triggered me to the point where I cried when I watched the Pamela Anderson documentary. And somebody said she seems like a really gentle soul. She is. She's a beautiful human being. And she looks like an angel to me. I'm pretty sure she's an angelic. She fell into that world very vulnerable and was traumatized and didn't, that wasn't healed. So we need to sit back and stop judging people. Men need to sit back and stop looking at these women like they're, just sex objects as well. Because there is a demand for sexual stuff. And I know women watch it as well. But the majority of it is men. And this isn't a judgment, guys. But we're in an epoch now where if you don't clean yourself up, what is in your cubes of consciousness, your darkness, your bloodlust, your sex lust, and all this stuff is coming to find you. That may be something like the trauma or something nasty like that happens to one of your loved ones or one of your children to teach you a lesson. Things are speeding up. Lessons are going to get harder and faster very quickly. I'm working on the planet and raising up the people as more and more every day. And I'm giving you a heads up. If you don't work on yourselves, your own dark side is going to come and find you until you recognize it and deal with it. Many people forget that women are human beings and with real feelings and need for respect and genuine, pure-hearted love. I agree with you, Dee. But there's also men need it. I've been very blessed in my life that the men that have been in my life have been wonderful, balanced, kind, respect women, and very lucky, that I've grown up with that in my family and my in-laws and so on and so forth. I'm not labelling men here because I love men. I've always had a female best friend and a male best friend my whole life. Since, going back to when I was 9 or 10 years old. Very balanced. So men need the love and respect as well, but they're not going to get that love and respect if they're acting the way they are treating women with disrespect and as sexual objects, people they can abuse, people they can hit, get away with, and so on and so forth. That's going to come back. So this is a message for any men out there that are being violent towards their wives or girlfriends or children. That violence is going to come and find you. So this is not something that you can ignore. The man I was married to needed that love from his mother but looked at me for it. That caused some disconnect. Yeah, there's a difference there. So this is a really important time to start going within, Really look into your history of your family. Look about your ancestors. Where were they born? What were they involved in? Were they involved in, were they alive during the Civil War or World War II or so on and so forth? All of these imprints are in your DNA, if they were. And there's been wars, for generations. Look into racism. I'm very lucky. There's mixed race in my family, and I grew up in a mixed race part of a city as well. So it's always been normal to me, But when I went to America, for example, and I went to Alabama, I was very shocked that I was living in a town. I didn't see any black people at all. And I was there for a while thinking, something doesn't feel right here. Something's odd about this place. And then it struck me. It's because it was all white people. And I haven't grown up in a place like that. So I know that what has happened to people of colour, and is still happening, is dreadful. And that they're going to have to reach deep, deep, deep down into their hearts to forgive and move forward. But what they need to understand, the same as the rest of us, is that what you do for you, if you can find to forgive in your heart, you're forgiving and breaking that pattern of racial abuse in humanity for your children and your children's children and for the future of your people. That's how important this is. So we need to be speaking to people that, if you know anyone who is racist or bigoted or is treating their wife or girlfriend badly, this is an opportunity for you to stand up and speak your truth and explain that if we want this to stop, we need to stop it in here. We need to be forgiving. We need to get this cleaned out of our DNA. I would love to fill a football stadium and open the one portal to heal all the intergenerational trauma and take the racism programs out. And I could do it. I've said before, it makes no difference whether I'm working with 10 people on here or 100,000 in a football stadium. Trying to get someone to come in and help me to, put that together may take some time. But, I would like to do it. I'm capable of doing it. It's needed. Mass healing is needed. And that's what I've been given the one portal for. I'm sure of it. To make those big changes on the planet. And it's not just about that. It's mass healing for trauma, for all sorts of trauma could be healed. Taking out all of these old false religious programs. I know there's a lot of good messages that come through from, the story of Christ. And Christ consciousness is a gold flame, gold light in your heart. That's what Christ consciousness is. And we're bringing that into the planet. That's been coming through the sun for a few years, the golden sun. Now it's white. It's source energy with one energy, which is transparent coming through. So it's like those bubbles with all the colours of the rainbow. So depending on, how high your frequency is, you will absorb what you need. But it's not just about sitting in the sun and absorbing the sun. It's about doing it with intention. And I've spoken to you before about sun gazing. So you can do it for up to an hour after sunrise or an hour before, within the hour before sunset. And you basically stare into the sun and you ask Source to burn out any programs or patterns in you that are not serving your highest good. And you can heal yourself with the sun. It's called back to sun with the sun. Same thing with the wind. You can go and stand when it's really windy, go and stand, put your arms out and, ask the wind to cleanse your aura, cleanse you. And imagine it going through your body, through every cell, every fibre, cleansing you. Same with water, salt water if you go in the sea. As well, put salt water in your bath, it's cleansing you on that level. If you lie in the bath of salt water and you imagine the water, your body's a sponge and you're absorbing it into every cell, every fibre, and you want to neutralise and purify any racism or sexism or anything in you, then you can do that. And we've all been there. We've all been light and dark, or we wouldn't be here. So let go of the ego side of you that thinks, well, there's none of that in me, because if you're watching this, it's in you. You've been guided to this to listen because it's in you. Okay? So we're in a time where the more work we do on ourselves, the faster the outside world is going to heal. So you really are in the driving seat, guys. We all are. And I certainly, 20 years in, would really like things to speed up even more. So I'm working on it every day. But I'm calling those of you that have got more time, that instead of just going and sitting in front of the TV of an evening, maybe spend 20 minutes meditating with one and sending out those good vibes into the food, into the water, into the plants, into the trees, with the intention of clearing out racism, we're clearing out trauma from the planet, clearing out war from the planet, and all of these other things that have imprinted into the consciousness. A few weeks ago, I spoke about what you watch on the screen, anything you name and focus on for 3 seconds is imprinted into your consciousness. I don't know, I haven't got the drawing here, I haven't, no. It's imprinted into your consciousness. And that's like an energy grid coming out the screen into your energy grid. Okay, so things get stuck. And you can imprint onto your children as well. So if you're a really anxious mother or father, or you're a racist father or mother, you're imprinting that onto your children. And this is never going to stop if we don't sit back and start addressing this from the level of mind, body, and spirit. Spirit is energy. Spirit is grids. Spirit is the binary code. Spirit is the experiences, all the cubes of consciousness where we've been treated badly, where we've been raped or abused or beaten, or we've witnessed it, or we've carried it out. Like I say, we've all been good and bad. There's all this stuff that has to come out of us. A few weeks ago, I was releasing stuff out of my right shoulder, and I could see myself on horseback with a big sword, fighting. And it was all of that aggression, all of that hate was coming out of my right shoulder from other lifetimes. The cube of consciousness, I talked about in the beginning of the video, so you can, go back and watch the beginning of it. But basically, the cube of consciousness is my description of your consciousness, and your consciousness creates your reality. So if you imagine your divine spark, your soul essence as a flame inside a glass cube, and that's your pure essence. All your lifetimes add experiences to those cubes. So it's like Rubik's cubes so it's like millions and millions and trillions of Rubik's cubes. If you think you've had thousands of lifetimes and everything you've experienced in those lifetimes, light and dark, imprints into your cubes, that one cube becomes masses of cubes. So imagine millions of Rubik's cubes, and some are light and some are dark. And the ascension is about healing your cubes of consciousness, because your cubes of consciousness are exactly the same as a program in your computer. They create what you see on the screen. Your screen is your reality experience. Your screen is what comes to you. Okay. And jumping back to what I was saying about the Pamela, throughout her life, she suffered more abuse at the hands of men, grabbing her hair, banging her head against a wall. Because the trauma that she experienced when she was raped and sexually abused as a little girl was still in her cubes of consciousness. It's still in her cubes of consciousness today. I'd love to do some healing with her. I think she's a beautiful, beautiful human being and very misunderstood. So all of that trauma is in her cubes of consciousness. What happens with what's in your cubes of consciousness is the program that creates your reality, that sends out a vibrational frequency, a pulse, 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 pulse. That pulse goes and collects more of the same and brings it back to you because it's on a loop. Your field is a loop like this. This is why we're taught history in school about war, because certain people who write those curriculums don't want that to go away because it makes a lot of money. It makes a lot of money. There's certain people that don't want racism to go away because divide and conquer. How do you stay positive? The best way to stay positive is to do your meditations. When you go into your meditation, everything else disappears, and that will get you through to the next time. So meditation is critical. We were born to be meditating. We are mind, body and spirit, and your spirit food is meditation. And it's poo-pooed. I've watched certain things as well where they badmouth people who meditate like they're crazy, woo-woo weirdos. That's not the case at all. That's not the case at all. Your spirit needs meditation every day to function properly. And we're living in a world where anxiety is rife as well. Why is anxiety rife? Anxiety in people that haven't had any trauma. They just find themselves anxious. They're anxious because they're stuck in their heads, they're working too much, they're not meditating, they're not grounding themselves. Your body needs to bare feet on the grass, sand, soil, rocks, the earth every day for at least 20 minutes, if you can, to ground your energy field in. So you get stuck in your head, your brain gets overstimulated constantly and it starts to misfire. And I watched another documentary about Xanax as well, and just how dangerous that is, and how many people have just, millions and millions and millions of people have got it in their purse or in their pocket like it's a normal thing to take. The side effects and coming down off it, horrendous side effects. And it's all numbing people to keep them going. That's another thing I would ban if I ruled the world, advertising drugs or medicines on television. Drugs, basically, with side effects. I would ban that. It shouldn't be allowed. It's not allowed in the UK. When I went to America, it was non-stop advertising of these things. And people are brainwashed by it into this is good. If you're feeling anxious, take a pill, you're fine. Not take a pill. This pill is destroying you. It's destroying your brain, your ability to function. It's damaging your organs and all of this other stuff. When people need meditation, meditation is probably the most important thing lacking in humanity at the moment. It needs to be taught in schools. Those of you that may be putting together groups of mums that are taking their kids out of school, and I know quite a few are doing it. Teach your kids meditation. Learn meditation, even 5 minutes before they start class, when they come back from playtime, when they come back from dinner time, and before they leave at the end of the day. 4 little 5-minute meditations, quiet time, would really make a massive difference to the education system. I was born in England, but my mum was Scottish and my dad was Irish, so my accent is not so easy to place. So I can speak Scottish and Irish as well. But thank you for that. So it's imperative that people start to learn meditation and to teach it to their children. Yeah, meditations are fantastic. They are. Once you get into it and you just feel that peace, it takes a while, but just ignore your thoughts. You try and do it, your thoughts will come in, just ignore them. Stare at a candle, ignore your thoughts. Or go and sit somewhere beautiful and stare at a tree. Stare at the ocean, stare at a rock, stare at anything. But just ignore your thoughts and keep pulling yourself back. If you stare at a candle, you can visualize the candle light coming into your heart as well, which those of you that are healers or do any psychic work, that's a really good way to, to level up your psychic energy as well. Okay. So this is the time to be getting on with it. Things are going to start speeding up. More changes are happening already. There's talk about eliminating income taxes in America and a 4-day week as well. All of this, I don't believe we were built to work 5 or 6 days a week. Quite the opposite. I think 2 or 3 days a week is enough. People need to be with their families again. Mothers need to be with their children. Fathers need to respect the fact that being a housewife is really hard work. There's a lot of work to be done. And if you work and try and keep your home and can't afford a cleaner or a nanny or someone to help, then it's even more hard work. No wonder, there's such a high percentage of illness out there because of the stress that's involved. Okay, guys. So I hope you found this useful today. Like I say, none of it's with judgment. I just wanted to point out a few things out there in the world that need healing. And I'm not going to do meditation today. I've got an astral projection workshop on the 5th of February if you're interested in that. If not, it will be up by next month. It will be up for sale as an online course, as will all of my workshops. So this is the last time to do any live workshops with me between now and April. I won't be teaching them live anymore. This year I'm focusing on my addiction retreats on Vancouver Island. So hopefully I'll see some of you on Sunday. Thanks for joining me, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed the chat today, and keep up the meditation and connecting to one. Lots of love. Bye for now.